Welcome back to episode 5, I believe, of Calhoun Falls City Skylines 2 playthrough. We're going to open up with a nice shot of the northern lights right here, right near this real pretty mountain. I wanted to start off the episode by saying that I think we did a pretty good job yesterday. So what I've done between episodes is I have fixed this highway junction so that it now can go in both directions, and I've also connected up that highway to this point over here, which we made, to Mackenzie. I moved one of our bus routes out to that point, and I've also gotten rid of the connection point to Round Rock. But what I actually might do is just extend this road back out to that connection point, but I don't know how wise that is, so maybe let me know if you guys think that's a good idea or not. Anyway, to be able to make the train station in the last episode, I just plopped down this rail yard. It's not doing anything currently, but I will move that to a different location when we do decide to actually get working on that. I know I want 2 separate sets of tracks for passenger trains and railroad trains. You can easily put both passenger and freight trains on the same set of tracks, but they move at different speeds in this game. So the passenger trains are allowed to move much faster than the freight trains are, so it's kind of fine to have passenger and freight trains go on the same track, but if you're going to be running a substantial amount of freight trains, then you will probably want them on separate tracks, which is just how we're going to build it in this playthrough. Plus, I kind of want them to go to and from different locations, so yeah, we're going to do it like that. The reason I've opened up on this side of the city is because I want to build out this area right here, which is going to be our farming area. Now, what I've done, luckily, this was by chance, is I've put this Alderwood Street here, being able to just go straight up and giving us a great jumping off point for this fertile land area. So I'm going to do that, and we're going to build out a lot of the land here. I also wanted to show off this intermodal transit center that I built a little bit better. I also built a taxi depot, so I put the taxi stand on there, and I also fixed this bus line. It wasn't working before because I cut that out of the last episode. I went on like a 10 to 20 minute rant on why isn't this working, when I realized that I had only connected the small bus station back to the small bus station, and I hadn't actually put in any of the I built the bus stops, the little bus shelters, but I hadn't moved the bus line that I made into the bus stop. So now it's working, and we are getting a substantial amount of people to use this line. I put this on an electric bus just for pollution reasons, and I don't really think it changes anything. Like, I don't know if the electric buses need to go into charge more or less than the gas-powered buses. I have no idea. But either way, we've set up this bus line, and it appears to be working pretty well right now. I think that's taking some of the traffic off of our highway. And speaking of the highway, this cobblestone highway is still connected up to the same place. I redid this a little bit, and I put in some more wind turbines to increase our electricity generation capacity. So we were falling a little bit behind on that, and now I'm exporting a bit more. Our firefighters appear to be responding to this building, which is on fire, so hopefully they get there pretty soon. I put that fire station right there for a reason, because these industrial buildings like to catch on fire. And yeah, the other thing I think I want to do in this episode is to build out these blocks a bit more, and to start working towards building the blocks for our I guess mini downtown, this area where that college is going to go, and where I want a little few more higher density buildings to go. I don't know how many skyscrapers I want here just yet, and I think I want to make the lot sizes a bit lower so that the buildings don't get as tall, but I would still like to put up maybe some high density offices in this area near the college. And we did get up to milestone 10 off camera when I built something. And so I have messed with our city policies, and I turned on pretty much all of them except for import city services. I increased the taxi-based fare to 15 coins. I don't know how much that affects people using taxis. I turned on this pre-release program because it didn't seem like there was a downside. I turned on city promotion because it didn't really seem like there was a ton of a downside, because we don't have any. I haven't built any tourist attractions just yet, unless that means that it increases crime rate around every city park, which I don't imagine that would do. And I don't think this actually costs any money. I also turned on advanced pollution management because it increases the garbage accumulation. I kind of don't care about the air and ground pollution buff that this gives, because all of our air and ground pollution is going to be concentrated in this area, and it's not going to spread too much to the quote-unquote south because of the river, and it's not going to spread too much to the quote-unquote east because it'll all blow off the map, and we don't care about that. However, if we produce more garbage, our incineration plant produces more electricity, and we can export that electricity for free, and it doesn't cost us any more money to run the incineration plant if we just give it more garbage. So, however, the only cost that will occur is that we might start to fall behind on garbage trucks, in which case you can actually just build a bunch of these landfills, like with really small garbage dump areas, and that will just give you a massive fleet of garbage trucks for pretty cheap. So anyway, I want more garbage accumulation, and that's why I turned on the policy. But yeah, so I am going to jump cut to where we have built our farming area. See you then. So a quick little update while we're on pause. I have put in the frame for this area, and a lot of these streets are going to go missing because, again, this is just going to be a farming area, so we don't need that many streets in here, especially because we'd like the farms to have reasonably large plot size. I've also decided to pull this street all the way over here to try to, sew these two areas together, which we've made. And as we can see, they're pretty close together, but they're just a little bit off. And also the angle that the grid is on is also just a little bit off. So up here, I tried to extend it with this couplet, which came off of this area and then connects to this area. And like I said a couple episodes ago, it's a pretty messed up couplet. I also decided that it would be a good idea to just reroute the highway entirely, because this was causing some trouble, these being right where this road is supposed to be. So I decided to move them up by this little bit, where they are 1 block away from this other big street that we will have made. And we had to mesh this highway together a little bit here, which hopefully that won't cause a lot of traffic accidents, but I think turning in the highway doesn't cause any traffic accidents. I think only they just happen probabilistically. Either way, we're going to have to move this entire highway up a little bit, and that shouldn't be too much of a problem, but that is something that we'll have to do. And I had to buy a couple of the tiles to make this happen, because another reason that we built this highway at this particular spot was because it was right on the border of the tile that we could afford, and you can see that when we just come down here. So this area is going to be another highway intersection. This one was one, and this one will be another one. I think this will largely be the end of our heavy industry area, but I'm not totally sure on that one. So the next step we're going to do is fix the highway, and then I will start zoning in some of the farmland up here. And our farmland actually fit in our area really nicely. I think we'll be able to stop it at this couplet, and we'll be able to stop it mainly at this street. So this block will be all farmland, right? And this is pretty close to being one proper block. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, almost 5 on this side, but that's to make it line up with the blocks on this side. So I will do that and put in the farmland, and we will jump cut back when we've got what we need. Okay, quick update again. We haven't built the farms yet. However, I did decide to just go ahead and finish off the highway for now and build off a lot more of the blocks. We haven't done this area yet, but I had to do a lot of areas so that I could get the highway in correctly. I built a few more of these intersections and one proper interchange. So what this interchange is going to do is it's going to let us have a different highway going kind of up and along this mountainside, and then it'll reconnect with that one way up here, so we'll get a good gap, a few blocks between this highway and this other one that we're going to build. And then coming off the other way, this highway is going to go down south like this and become a bridge when it goes over the river. So hopefully it will be good, and maybe we'd be able to put down another block in here and maybe put a highway exit right here toward this street, which is why I built it right in the middle of that street, because with here we have this built right in the middle of the street, and it will just splurt out onto right this street at this block. So I guess it takes up a total of 2 blocks in width or length by 1 block in width, and we could do that here with 1 block in width, 2 blocks in length, because this is still in the center of the block. So hopefully that will work equally well. This is a smaller highway because I envision this area to be more, lower density suburb-y area, and so they'll need a decent highway connection, but not an extremely large highway connection, like this pretty powerful highway connection. I also built this diagonal highway junction into here. I could make this look a little bit better coming out of the highway, because it kind of has to turn this like big 135 degrees ish and do a big sweep here. However, I wanted this to be in and out coming in the same direction. I wanted 90-degree angles here, so that's why we had to do that. But I still think it looks pretty cool. This does take up a lot more land area than the other highway junctions do, because it's at that weird angle. So hopefully we'll be able to fix that, or put some service buildings, here-ish, to be able to fill those large holes, or like a school could go there, or just maybe an office park, right? Or like a tram depot or something. Actually, I don't think the tram depot would fit there. No, it's too big. But anyway, you get the drift. Something that is a big ploppable that can fit in there. Anyhow, so that was the update. This still looks kind of weird, but that's okay, and I think that we are able to get rid of formerly the cobblestone highway, currently the Alderbrook highway, because it does get just a little backed up during peak times, but it's really pretty good for the rest of the time, and this highway gets a bit of use during the full times. I think now that I've turned on now that I've activated this, and I've got this thing kind of going on here, this couplet and these two areas connected up, I think I really do want to remove this southern highway, but I feel like I would want to first connect up Fawn Street here and have it go up a little, and then connect up to this couplet first before doing that, because that's the new way that people would be able to get down to this area without totally having to go all the way through this area. Or they could just come down here and do that and have an equivalently sized path than going that way. So they're going this way currently because it's the quickest, and it's fairly direct, and they don't have to deal with any of this Michigas over here. So my hope was that this one intersection would be sufficient for our industrial district, as long as we had a few connections that ran through it. And we've got these, this connection here. I was toying with the idea of having this street curve up and go like this, but I think that's more or less what the couplet I built will do. It just is kind of janky, and if we wanted to make a tram do this, it wouldn't give us a superb connection for that. If we wanted to do a tram, I feel like we would want to do it more down here, even though that's less optimal, considering that I think we would want our tram to probably be on Greenwood Street, and then maybe it would just have to turn and go down Bayberry Street. That would be a little unfortunate, but it would be doable. With this could just become a 3-lane, and then a tram could go in there, and then it could come down onto Bayberry Street and pull over. Speaking of the trams, I thought a bit more about the downtown area, and I think I basically want it to go along this whole thing. So I like the idea of the trams kind of being in the highway-ish. So I believe that what I want is for the trams to kind of come down here from the highway, get onto Pleasant Street here, and kind of make a loop going Pleasant Street and then Willowbrook Street. So this will be the edge of downtown, and then maybe either Bayberry Street or the block that I think we have room for, one block lower than that. I think we'll maybe just barely have enough room for that, and maybe the trams will get to go along the coast a little bit. I'm measuring with my fingers on the screen here, and it looks like that will probably have to happen. The trams going along the coast at an angle up until right about this intersection of Bayberry Street. So I think that should be good, and it should give us a lot of space to loop the trams, because we want those trams to be used for a bit more long distance travel, and possibly we could have some buses running in the more up and down these streets. I think it could also be interesting if we had a lot of this be a pedestrian only area down here. Like if we took the inner loop of the trams and just put all like pedestrian streets here. Maybe that would look okay. I don't know. We might try it and figure out where to go from there. The only thing about that is that doing all pedestrian street doesn't make a ton of sense when we have this big highway connection right here, but maybe it could help a bit more, or maybe we could have some diagonal streets coming from one corner to another. I have thought about doing something like that, where we have like this, and then have a diagonal pedestrian street, say, going sort of like this, and it gives a good bit of zoning, and it's possible that the trams could also run along these, or a bus could run along these. I think that it's best if a bus runs along those, but then it makes our roundabouts that we'll end up putting in here look just pretty crazy, because we would have something going on like this piece of total and utter craziness, and we'd even have some more going down through here. And let's actually get rid of all these temporarily, so I can initially, like, just to see. We'll just do this to see here about whether or not I like this design. And so we'll put that one in there and there. And now we can put in our pedestrian streets at an angle. So that one would go from here to here. This one would go from here to here. And the problem with those is that they look bad. So let's destroy them and replace it. And that looks good. And that looks good. So then we'd have... Wow, that doesn't look like something you'd want to... Let's see if a bigger roundabout... See if an even bigger one. Maybe a very large. That looks like a pretty crazy intersection there. I did not like the way that first one was looking. But probably we could also do something like this, and I know that's not quite right, but this skipping of the lanes right here is just utter craziness. Even though I know it's kind of to allow the buses or so to get out like that. But I think that that is actually a really neat star design, and with that we could have, say, these mixed-use buildings along this area, this diagonal street here, and maybe some residential buildings along that. This is getting kind of Paris-esque, though, an 8-pointed star shape thing. However, I do think that could look pretty nice and might be very useful for our buses. So, given that I want to build another block down here, let's just keep this right here for now as the center. And I might actually want to do, because this is our very large, we could also do other things. But I think I want to do a cul-de-sac, and I might just want to put in some, a cul-de-sac with trees, even though that doesn't look amazing. Or I could maybe do this mosaic, or just a very large roundabout with some more trees, or just one tree. Oh, that's so sad. I kind of like this flower bed, or the striped one with the flower bed. Actually, I think I like how the funny looking flower bed looks a good bit more. So yeah, I like that. Let's keep that design as going to be the center of our downtown, and once we get these streets to come out far enough, we could possibly fit a university in this area, which I actually bought the college, and it's really, that's a lot smaller than I was expecting. So I think we could probably just fit the college in, just anywhere. The university is a good bit bigger, which is the thing I was thinking of, or we could try to fit in a technical university, maybe down here, and let those pedestrian streets widen out a bit more. But the college ought to be pretty easy to fit in there. I think as if we put it like right here, honestly, and just tried to center it on like this street. I don't quite know how big it is. It looks like it's 5 on this side and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on that side. So if we just built out this street by another block and did that and tried to put back down our university, it doesn't fit, of course, but yeah, that is going to be our good center point for our university. So what I might do is just put that down right now, and maybe we'll have that there, and then we could take our alley, I suppose, and put it behind that, maybe go out just one more, and then turn that back into our 2-lane road on either side. And we could put back in our pedestrian streets later, but they would be able to fit nicely around there. And that could give us a good intersection, which we could either put, I think we could put parks around this, and that would look quite nice. And we'll need some public transit going through here, which I guess means that if I wanted more public transit going through here, I should have put it at the corner, but I chose not to do that. And I think we'd also want a train station here, but I could do that off camera. I don't know if we'd want the train station right exactly here, because we'd have to pop the train above ground and then pop it back underground, and that could start being a pain. And additionally, I also want to do more of like a transit center kind of vibes. What we could also do, in addition to having the loop, is have trams going along these pedestrian streets. I know I kind of wanted to have buses in there, but you can easily upgrade that with tram tracks, as you can see, and they could help. However, if we had tram tracks there, You know, they can't go through the roundabout, which is just wholly unfortunate. It makes it look like they can, but they cannot. So if we wanted to do that, what we'd have to do is have a... There's no very large asphalt cul-de-sac, so that would just kind of be super unfortunate, which is why I didn't really want to have trams doing those routes, so maybe we'd have to have buses running along these pedestrian streets. They're also really easy to upgrade with bus lanes, if I remember correctly, or at least the bus stop shelter. You can just plop down onto there and have the bus stop at it. I don't know if the directionality is important there, so maybe we'd have... You can put the sign on both sides, so maybe we'd have the bus stop shelter on one side and the sign on a different side. I think that might work well, but either way, our university has been built, or our college has been built, and we have 100 students. We can also put down a library, but if we put down that library, I think we should move it farther over to the left. So let's actually do that right now. Let's move that farther over to the left, which I know I just built the thing, so this is starting to become the unfortunate saga of city skylines once again, where you build something and then you pay a lot to move it. Well, first let's actually see how much we need to move it. It looks like we need to move it over by 3. So that'll give us 8 on one side and 2 on the other side, and 2 should still be enough room to put in our alley. I know we can finagle it around like that, so let's put in that road, and then let's put back in the alley once we pull a little bit more road off of there. Now it'll let you put in the alley if you do it right, but if you do it wrong, I guess it won't let you put in the alley, which is just super weird. It can be really weird. It can just behave very strangely with the alleys. And hopefully that will still give our pedestrian street enough room to continue out here. It looks like it doesn't want to, but I know we can mess with it until it does. So it looks like it's trying to be angry with us, but that's only because we have this alley here. If we wanted to, we could turn that into a street again, and I don't think it would mess with us too much. In fact, let's do that just so it doesn't mess with us too much. And by it, I mean the game. The game will mess with us. And there we go. And now it should allow us to put our pedestrian street back in. And it still doesn't really want to do it, so that's interesting. It usually lets you do it. Well, anyway, it seems to be overlapping between that alley and maybe the other thing, so maybe I built that other road a bit wrong, but either way, I think let's not worry about that too much for now, because the pedestrian streets can be overwritten and other things can happen to those. But anyway, I like this college library put up there, even though it is actually kind of quite expensive. But our dropout rate's only 3%, and we have more people, and we could put these on if we wanted to, but I don't feel like it. We could build another college library, but then our campus would be getting quite large, so I think instead I'd like to have this be a strip of park. And yeah, so I'm starting to like this area a bit. I thought the college would be a bit bigger than what I had imagined, but maybe we could do something else with that too. Yeah, I do think now I'm torn between having the trams loop around and having the college be right here. I actually think I don't want the college to be right here. I think I want it to be much closer to a tram stop, because I don't want to have those trams coming in here. I might just want to have buses coming in here. So, tell you what, we're going to leave the college there for now, temporarily, to be able to educate our citizens. And I am going to do the thing I said I was going to do first in the episode, now that we're 20 minutes in or so. And I'm finally going to build these farms. So let's jump cut to when the farms are actually built. So I finally zoned in our farms. I've zoned in a mix on our farms of some livestock farming up here where there was less density of the fertile land resource. I put textile fiber, aka cotton, which is what the picture's of, on the side here right next to the couplet in these kind of messed up zones. I did that because I think you end up needing a lot less cotton than you usually do. So we only had a deficit of 3 tons per month with that. It still shows the earlier resources because I've kept the game on pause. But instead we have a production deficit of 21 tons per month of vegetables. So I made these 4 vegetables, and we had a deficit of 13 tons a month of grain. So I made these 4 be grain. I have yet to put in any forestry, but I might do that up here closer to this mountainside, maybe depending on when I buy those tiles, or I could put some forestry somewhere else, depending on where I want all this stuff to be. To lower the land value, which remember I said was way too high, it's still 62 to 63 because I think maybe there's some land value bleed coming from in here where the land value is 111 in the places where we haven't built anything yet, 111 to 62. This thing I know is a source of land value, so maybe that's causing a lot of bleed even over to here. So I decided to put in some lightly polluting industry, which will give us less ground pollution actually, but will still give us, I think, enough air pollution. I think with the fertile land resource, ground pollution is the only thing that takes it away. I know that's true with trees. With trees, also air pollution takes it away, but I don't really know about if air pollution takes away the fertile land. I don't really think it would. For trees, it makes some more sense because they're taller, I guess? I don't really know. Anyway, to complete the farming village aesthetic, I put in some spots for low density businesses to spring up here to serve these people and sell some goods. And I also put in areas for some offices. So this could be farm management offices or something like that to complete the little feel of that area. So let's hit play, and everyone's going to build stuff in. We have 3 large stores, so that should be good. And we have a little bit of some offices built in. We have a bank, an electronics store, a paper store, and I don't know what that one is. And this one doesn't have a tenant yet. But either way, so all these people are building in. We have our farm started to build in. I know these livestock farms will level up faster than the rest of the thing. See, these people have a little greenhouse here, and so these people. Now, I don't think they're actually going to produce any vegetables or cotton here, which it calls it textile fiber in the menu, but this one says cotton. I digress. Or grain here because it's spring, so maybe they should just be starting to plant their crops, and there's still snow on the ground over these fields. So I think that the seasonal production effect actually does do maybe something with this game, because it says we're producing 11 tons of vegetables a month, or of grain a month roughly, and we're producing 20 tons of vegetables a month roughly, even though it's April and nothing should be happening yet. So maybe we'll pretend that that's an average or something else. So who knows? I think the next thing that we'll need to build is maybe more of these livestock if we can get that. I think we'll definitely need some wood, and then I think we'll definitely need ore and stone. I don't think we need coal because it's only really for making steel, and we don't make a ton of steel, but ore goes into a lot of things, and stone goes into a lot of things too. So does oil, but we have a surplus of oil, so that's good. I think also our livestock production will increase as time goes on and these level up. Anyway, hopefully the land value is starting to go down here because we're trying to pollute this area just a little bit. So our land value is still really, it's still pretty high up here, and it's still high up here because these actually increase the land value, but hopefully with some air pollution, which we have over here, that land value will go down. We also have ground pollution over here, but I think the land value is tied to just any kind of pollution. So yeah, see, we are that's really starting to drive down the land value, that pollution. And where I'm hoping that the pollution won't go past this barrier, which I was going to put a bunch of trees in, but then I realized that they would all die because of the air pollution, so I decided not to do that. I was also putting a strip of grass alongside in this couplet here because I thought it looked pretty nice, and it also gets rid of the parking. And I think on couplets like this, you typically don't want a ton of parking along the street. I think sometimes you do, and I would bet that a lot of the time you do, especially if you're using these perpendicular parking or angled parking streets as the streets for your couplet. But yeah, I don't want parking on this for now because it's going to be a lot of trucks and other, industrial vehicles, heavy vehicles, and I don't want anybody to park here. It doesn't make it, I don't think it makes the traffic go any faster or slower. It just possibly makes it flow better because you're not having vehicles pull in and out and do all of that wackiness. I could put some trees here. Well, actually, let's put some pine trees along this just to see what happens. Actually, that looks really, really pretty, especially in the winter. But I don't know what'll happen when they get air polluted and die. So let's go down to there, and let's just complete that up here. I don't think I want to do that for the whole way down, but actually I will, because I've decided that I do want to do it for the whole way down. Anyway, after we get done with putting these in, by putting these in, we have unlocked the dairy house, which is a thing that we will need to put in to our city. Not need, but I'd like to put it into our city because it's our first specialized industry building. And those can be really helpful when you're starting out because they give you bonuses. Like this one gives us 2% export profits citywide and 2% industrial efficiency. So that's going to be really helpful. And I usually like to put all of these just like, close together because it looks, I think it just looks awesome. But what I could do is I could plop it down here. It looks to be just the right size for that. Almost just the right size. It would be just the right size if I got rid of that road, which I think I'll do just for good measure because that's kind of a silly road to have anyway. So let's plop that down there. Let's get rid of this industry zoning right here and let's put it back there. I think because we're going to have heavy industry and large industrial buildings like this, which a lot of people are going to work at along here, we won't zone industry along these roads. I haven't been zoning industry along those roads on purpose, if you're wondering. I'm doing that in order to try to get the traffic to flow a bit better. Because if you have, industry coming in here, there's trucks going in and off of this road, and with the small businesses or the low density businesses with just regular cars, I think it's fine. It doesn't mess it up too much. But when you have a bunch of semi trucks doing it on only a 2-lane road, it can get to be a pain. So I'd much rather this semi truck, go somewhere else and do it on one of these side streets than to make their turns on one of these big streets, just to stop in the middle of the road and then make a big turn. I'd just prefer them to do that on a side street. So our dairy house appears to have employed a fair amount of people, and that's our first big industrial building, so yay! The other ones we have to unlock is ground earth, which it gives us industrial efficiency, but other than that isn't too useful. The paper factory is pretty useful. It gives us a decent, good boost to our industrial efficiency. The chemical plant is fun, and for that we just have to zone a lot of industrial buildings. The fuel plant is pretty cool. This one's actually kind of hard to get, but it gives us, some interesting effects, which are -5% air and ground pollution citywide totally. But it takes 50 level 5 industrial manufacturing buildings, and we only have 5. So I have found that it's pretty hard to level up the industrial buildings to level 5, and it looks like the 5 that we have are electronics, vehicles, and electronics. So our electronics are clearly making a lot of money, and we have a few that are on level 4. So that's vehicles, electronics, vehicles, ... You can actually kind of cheat that system a little bit, because it just says buildings in total. So if you make the lot sizes a lot smaller, you get a lot more buildings to level up. So that's kind of a cheaty way to go about leveling up that one. Like if I just put in a bunch of 2x2 or 3x3 industrial buildings in this area, for example, I could come over here to a block and I could just say, oh, I want this one, this one, this one, and this one. I now have 4 times the building density in this block, and so I can kind of cheat that way. Anyway, that's a strategy you can use. And I actually did that in a couple of my other cities. And it works pretty well because they also, they employ less people, but their lot size is smaller. And it's actually kind of surprising that the industrial buildings don't level up faster, especially considering that, your city makes a lot of its money off of exports. Now, there's also a fairly involved calculation that the game goes through on, import-export profits, and how that comes out to tax revenue and revenue for the businesses. Anyway, if they just take out, export their stuff using trucks, it's more expensive than if they do it using trains or other forms of public transportation. So it's pretty, a very good thing you can do to level up your buildings is to just give them a freight train station. To just take one of these cargo terminals and just plop it down here or something. I think this would be a pretty decent spot here, or right near the trash dump would be pretty good, because it's pretty much right in the middle of everything. And if we wanted to, we have some city service buildings over here that we could run some train tracks near, and we could run over the highway, and I don't think that would impact everyone very much. So maybe we'll do that, or maybe we'll, you could also run the trains down here and then up through this couplet, which I think might actually be a better thing to do, to run the freight trains up through this couplet, and then we could put our rail yard over here or something, and it could connect. But you want to be a little careful about that, because otherwise you can start to, abuse the couplet and end up putting a lot of train tracks through it and having those level grade crossings, and that can really slow down your efficiency of the couplet. Now, granted, we didn't build this couplet for traffic efficiency. We built it to separate the zoning grids of these two areas, which, I suppose it then wouldn't be tragic if we made traffic worse on this couplet, since we didn't care about it in the first place, but still, I digress. Anyway, our unemployment is at 0.2%, so there's enough jobs for everyone, and I think what I want to do then is to zone in some more of this area. I think I want a lot of this area to be in this like low density-ish style, so I think I'm going to put 2 more blocks of that here. And then when we start getting into this area, I think I'll have a lot more row houses and stuff like that going up in this area, because we wanted this street to be the boundary of our, downtown square kind of thing. So I think that I'll start putting up some row houses in this square and low density in this square. So let me at least build the zoning grid out, and then I will check back in when we're done. So I think to leave us off here, we're going to end the episode pretty soon, but I have zoned in this area with the appropriate type of street, like we did over here, and I think I'm going to pretty much make this row houses for most of the way. No, I said row houses would go over here, so this is still going to be some low density. I think I'm going to put some more row houses up here, because I made this little area with a diagonal pedestrian street just to test that out with, some high-density business and some mixed use and some medium-density residential. And I think this little triangle-y area right here actually looks just great, especially with the little park and the trees that we put in, and there's some low-density business kind of bracketing it. You got a couple of gas stations over here, but that's all right. I think that this area looks really nice, and I think that this is the aesthetic that I'm going to try to go for, because this looks really like, small town, downtown-y, right? If the buildings weren't, 5-6 stories high, that's really what it would look like. So I think I'm going to go for that a bit over here, especially in these areas, which is already kind of what I've started to do over here. I put up another train station for this area, and I finished off this little university double block here, college double block. I put up a bus station so that we can integrate transit into the university, and I gave them 2 basketball courts for the university sports team, which doesn't really exist. Over on this side, I put a very too small amount of parking for the college, which, that's just how colleges work, right? And I put in a couple of parks here to make that look really nice and complete off that square. Remarkably, everything just fit perfectly in here, so that was great. And yeah, I think we're going to be able to run the train here, and I think we're going to be able to integrate buses in here with this little college transit center that we built. So I think that this will be super helpful for being our downtown transit center and our college transit center for this area. And we'll have rapid transit with the train going from here right to our Canal District Transit Center, which hopefully then would connect to somewhere else. But I did get that train line fully hooked up. So if we can see, yep, that train line hook is totally hooked up. It goes underground for most of the way, which is kind of neat. And yeah, I think that'll just about leave it off for this episode. I hope that you all enjoyed. I think that next time we are going to actually zone in a lot of this area and start to put in some offices in this area and really start to expand the population of our city. And also finish some of the transit projects that we started a couple episodes ago and that we've been thinking about since the founding of our city. Anyway, that'll be the episode 5, I believe, of Calhoun Falls. I'm Joe, and feel free to comment on the video if you liked it, and if there's any districts you'd like me to make, go ahead and let me know.